morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice for radio, so today I'm going to be showing you Dawn Wings Necrozma. Now, I know what you're thinking, Ross, we've seen Dawn Wings Necrozma, but you know what? Dawn Wings Necrozma may well actually be a phenomenal card that's going to see a huge amount of play. So when we're looking at Dawn Wings Necrozma in this particular video, we are focusing on the ability. Now, the attack, 120 damage, not affected by resistance. It's too expensive. I've said many times, we need a better way to accelerate energy onto psychic Pokemon, and we don't have it at the moment. I mean, fine, we've got Lunala from Sun and Moon that allows you to move around your psychic energy, but that doesn't mean very much if you can't get it on the field in the first place. And then, of course, the GX attack is fine, 180 damage. And you can only use it if you've got more prize cards remaining than your opponent, i.e. you're behind in the game. But it makes Dawn Wings Necrozma invulnerable all effective attacks, including damage, during your opponent's next turn. That, ladies and gentlemen, is really quite nice indeed. So we still have the problem that it's for free psychic energy and we can't accelerate it and so on and so forth. I think I've made that quite clear. But the ability is phenomenal. It allows you to just move into the active, just jump right on into that active position. And this is good. This is pretty much, and by pretty much I mean exactly, like Keldeo EX's stand-in ability. Or like Zoroark's ability, which is actually called stand-in, because Keldeo's ability is called rush-in, whoopsie-doodle. You get to just jump in the active and off you go. Now, the usual thing to do here is whack a float stone onto the Pokemon that jumped in the active, then you get to free retreat, and it's like having a free switch every turn. Although, interestingly enough, Solgaleo does just give you a free switch every turn, but that's a stage 2. It's not a basic. And what's interesting is I was planning to record this video today anyway, but then I went onto the Japanese Pokemon Twitter and they tweeted out this picture of the Japanese Dawn Wings Necrozma next to a float stone. They've got the same idea I have. Now, this is absolutely phenomenal. Keldeo saw a huge amount of play for the ability in a whole bunch of decks that didn't play any water energy to attack with Keldeo, and I think Dawn Wings Necrozma is going to be the same. Now, to be fair, when Keldeo was really in its heyday, there was Hypnotoxic Laser. Hypnotoxic Laser was an item card that automatically poisoned, and on a coin flip would also put your opponent's Pokemon to sleep. And sleep and poison is a bad combination. It's very mean, it's not terribly nice, and it could lose you games. So people would start playing Keldeo to get around it. And funnily enough, some people would then start using cards like Pokemon Catcher to grab Keldeo into the active and use Hypnotoxic Laser. So some people, Darkrai decks for instance, would actually start playing 2 copies of Keldeo just so they could make sure that if one Keldeo was dragged into the active and put to sleep, the other Keldeo could save it. We saw decks like Excelgor, which would paralyze every single turn, and people would play Keldeo to get around it. To put it simply, Keldeo, and now Dawn Wings Necrozma, great at getting around special conditions. One of the problems at the moment in terms of this seeing a lot of play is the special conditions are not a big part of the format in which we're currently playing. You've got Froakie's Bubble, I suppose, but that really is about it. It's not a huge special conditions format at the moment. Here's the thing. There's always the possibility that it will be in the near future, that decks will become popular that play special conditions, and Dawn Wings Necrozma will always be able to get you out of them. But it's not just special conditions, it acts just as a switch. Switching is good. But then again, there are other cards that really need to switch every turn, and I'm thinking here about Golisopod GX. Golisopod GX has first impression, 1 energy, 120 damage. 120 for a single basic energy is really quite ridiculously good. But you only get to do 120 if Golisopod was on the bench and became active during this turn. And that can be awkward. Now people sometimes use Ace Roller, and Ace Roller's great because it heals you as well. And people sometimes use Guzma, and Guzma's great because you also get to drag a Pokemon off the bench. But sometimes you don't want to play one of those supporters. Sometimes you want to play a Professor Sycamore to draw some more cards. Or you want to play an N to draw a new hand while disrupting your opponent. And Ace Roller and Guzma ruin that. Sometimes you want to switch, but you don't want to actually drag a Pokemon off the bench with Guzma, you just want to switch. Or sometimes you don't have any damage on you, so you can't use Ace Roller. And in all of these situations, Dawn Wings Necrozma comes in beautifully. You get to jump into the active, and as a side note, the ability here is called Invasion, clearly ruining the rush-in, stand-in pattern that we were going with, so cheers for that. But you get to jump in the active, and then with a Float Stone, you just get to retreat. There are many, many uses for an ability like this. Special conditions, getting the Pokemon you want in the active, using things like Golisopod, and this isn't it, these are just some examples. Now, of course, the one thing that you do need to be aware of here is that if you're relying on Floatstone, your opponent can go for a bit of the old Field Blower. Field Blower discards Floatstone, so then you've got to have a new one in order to actually jump in and retreat, because like its brethren before it with these kind of jumping in style abilities, the retreat cost is 2, which is actually kind of funny because Keldeo EX's retreat cost was 2 and Zoroark's retreat cost is 2. Apparently if you have this ability you have a retreat cost of 2. So Field Blower can be a pain, but you just need to be careful with your Float Stones. We don't have Eco Arm at the moment to recover them, you just need to be careful. Now, the one question that does really need to be asked in this video is, hang on a second, if this is such a great ability that's going to see a lot of play, why is it not already seeing play with Zoroark? And the answer is super simple. It's a basic. In your turn 1, most people now are grabbing a Bridget even if they have to use a Tapu Lele to do so, getting out 3 basics. The problem is we often end up with the wrong Pokemon in the active. Well, as long as you draw a Bridget and a Floatstone turn 1, you can manipulate your active however you like. Let's say you want to get an Eevee into the active so that you can Energy Evolution. Well, as long as you Bridget for an Eevee and you Bridget for a Dawn Wings Necrozma, and you got a Floatstone, you're absolutely fine, because now you can just get whatever you want. Dawn Wings Necrozma goes in the active and retreats, or maybe even you've got a Zorua in the active. Your opponent flips over a Buzzwole, and of course, first reaction here is, I need to get that out the active. Buzzwole's going to get a very easy KO for 1 energy. Do you want to waste an energy retreating it? What you could do here is just jump into the active. Fun fact, you have a resistance to fighting, so Buzzwole will only have a base of 10 damage. You just jump in the active, use your resistance, and then you don't have to let that Zorua go down. But these are things you cannot do with Zoroark, because Zoroark is a stage 1. Having this as an ability on a basic is so much better than having it as an ability on a stage 1. Then you bring in the fact that it's got 180 HP, which is very, very nice. And it's starting to look good. Now, there is one huge downside of Dawn Wings Necrozma which we need to mention here. It's got a weakness to darkness. And Zoroark is everywhere. And if there's one thing that's going to stop this seeing play, it's the fact that Zoroark can just use a Guzma, drag it active, and get a nice easy one-hit KO as long as they've got a full bench, which in and of itself is worrying. Or indeed, even if they've got kind of not a full bench. Even if they've got 2 Pokemon on their bench and a choice ban, they'll actually be hitting 90 and that'll be double 180 and get a KO because of the weakness. That's a problem. The thing is, Zoroark hasn't even seen play in Zoroark decks. But that's because it doesn't do what Zoroark is supposed to do. So take Zoroark Golisopod. Single energy attackers, abusing Ace Roller, while drawing lots of cards with trade. And I know that the non-GX is a single energy attacker, and I know that the attack can sometimes be good. But it doesn't have the trade ability, and it doesn't have the survive ability, because it's got 100 HP. That is why I don't think Zoroark's seen any play up to now, and why Dawn Wings Necrozma I think absolutely will. There is a huge issue in terms of the weakness to Zoroark, and even though you can most of the time just not play it, if you start with it, that's gonna be fairly awkward. But then again, you've got a resistance to Buzzwole, which is big, so maybe you can be okay. I think this is a great card. I think it's going to see a lot of play. And remember, this video is about seeing play for the ability, not in terms of anything else. The one thing I do have to make you aware, that is a bad weakness, ladies and gentlemen. But then again, I suppose you can't have everything. As always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Tell me what you think about this particular Pokemon. Tell me if you think it'll see play, or tell me if you think I'm wrong. But as always, the main rule, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio, and check out Wassy Plays for some video game action. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods and so on, you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far, the most important thing as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.